The rational system of worldview. The lecture of the candidate of philosophy of the Russian Academy of Science, Gennady Bichov. Human lives in society. The society with respect to a person develops a set of laws, criminal, administrative, rules of conduct. If a person had violated the laws of society, society would have punished him. The person would have said, well, I did not know the law. Society would have said, ignorance of the law is not excuse. That's exactly the same pattern as in the relationship between the society and nature. The fact is that society lives in nature and there are laws between nature and society, and that the society doesn't know the laws of nature. It's a problem of society. But if the society has violated the laws of nature, here comes into existence a crisis. Thus, we can say that the court and the crisis are the synonymous in the system of the regularity. The fundamental base of the educating of the society, it is our system of the worldview. This is where we should come to the spiritual component of society, then to the spiritual component of a person, then on his thinking and later on his behavior, because behavior is the consequence of the thinking. Thinking is based on the spiritual stage of the human development. So the fundamental base of the societies developed is a system of worldview. System of worldview is the initial cause of all our problems. The lack of the worldviews systems in our world is an analog of the lack of system program in the computer. The main fundamental crisis of our civilization is the worldview. How the world is organized. Until recently time, it was engaged in religion. Unfortunately, religion at defined stage has ceased to perform its task. It got lost in its development. It has come off from science, but today, of course, mainly the thought of human form. Though scientific knowledge that is provided by modern science, the world of view is not based on that. We are tried to bring back the old world views that is simply based only on faith, but this worldview has not already worked. Religion is system of social view on the origin, structure and patterns of the world around us. Religion responds to the questions of who we are, where, why are we here, etc. That is, it is the basic program of society, which gives the value system, a system of relationships. This is an irritational system. Currently, the company has grown. We have grown intellectually, significantly, and now we are not needed in an irritational, but we are needed in rational system of the worldview. In other words, it is a scientific picture of the world, that is, the system of the worldview, which is not responsible for the emotional sensory human needs, but for the intelligent human needs, by analog to make it clear again. Figuratively, imagine a small child. He is 2 to 3 years old. He grows. You send him to kindergarten. Mostly it is uneducational system. He has to be brought up. Education is still too early. But when he grows up intellectually, he has a lot of inconsistencies, questions. You've already given him into the school. The school is the educational system already. That is, you move from the step upbringing to the step of education. The same thing happens now with our civilization. We've already possess great intellectual potential, and our society is vital, needed, intellectual, rational system of worldview that meets the same questions: who we are, where we are, why we are here, why, etc. That is, by analog we can say the rational religion. The first task of society, the correct task of society, is to put the system program that is give to human, the system of worldview, and thereby give a value, a system of relationships. With this program, the society is not functioned. The absence of this program, this is a violation of the laws of nature, which is the fundamental base of modern crisis, and above all, spiritual crisis of human. What is rational system of worldview? Also, this is a system of social worldview onto the origin, structure, and patterns of the world around us, but it has already built on aggregate and synthesis of scientific knowledge. The scientific picture of the world is a rational system of worldview. Thus religion, what do we mean by religion? Is it an irritational system of worldview? It was necessary to civilization until as developing our intellect, but today we've already met the required intellectual needs. Not emotional sense as before, but the system of the intellectual worldview we don't have up to today. Hence, we are faced the crisis. We have violated the fundamental law of nature from this lost civilization. That is, everyone began to live for himself. Everyone has to put only the applications and block on them. We have no system of relationships. There is no systems of values. When we approached the solution of this problem, we found a very interesting universal law. This law is called the law of the universum. The history of the act is as follows. The geometric interpretation of this law was found on the stones of Egyptian civilization. But even at that time, the law has already been lost. It is a circle inside 3 more circles. Within each circle, 3 more circles. Within each round, another 3 circles, and so on. There are 3 zones, the lower zone, middle zone, and the highest zone. On these cycles, circles all develop society, the person, the history of civilization and space. In principle, the law is universal and everything is progressing according to these cycles, circles. Here we find the first issue of our civilization and what we have done with you. Where we have violated the laws of the nature. These are the laws of nature. Here, as they say, the letter of the law. That we did not know them are our problems. We have broken the law. What did we break in? We tore religion and science. But in general, we wiped the philosophy out. Our philosophy has become the part of the historical sciences. Today, the philosophy that is what Hegel said, the Socrates said, and etc. We made it into the history of philosophy. We tore science and religion. In other words, what did we break? What is religion? Religion is a holistic worldview. The science is the study of its individual parts. Philosophy is an ongoing process of that studies religion as a map of the area. Here we have a map, a white spot. What does make a cartographer? He has a whiteboard. He sent an expedition. They brought him a sketch of this piece of land. He has put them on the map. Another expedition brought a sketch of his piece of land. He transferred to the card. Thus the map of the area is filled. So then people who are going to travel look at this map, have an idea, and know what they want and how to take advantage of it. Well, the same thing here. Cartography is a philosopher, a map. It is a religion. But these expeditions are sciences, the same universal law. All in civilization develops on these same laws, including the social worldview, is formed on the basis. Religion, a holistic worldview. Science is an analyzing of the individual parts of the universe, thus breaking the religion from the science. We tore the synthesis from the analysis. So, imagine what we did. Let's look at the human. He believes in one thing and he knows the other. And what he knows, he does not believe. I think all of them are the same in a mental hospital. So our civilization can be sent to a mental hospital because we believe in one thing, but we know the other things. The fact that we know we do not believe, what we believe in, we do not know. You see, this is the origin of the ills of society. From here there is a crisis, the main problem. Crisis problem that gave rise to the crisis of spirituality. Why? Because society is not able to give a person the system of worldview that would has not responded to physiological needs of the person, but would has responded to the intellectual needs of the person. Today, we need a rational scientific picture of the worldview, how the world works, who are we, where from, why are we here, where are we going. The fact is that, firstly, the scientific hypothesis necessarily based on a system of law of cause and consequences relationships. This is the logic. This is the law of cause and effect relationships. The language of science is the language of logic, but the most important and distinctive feature of the teaching of science is a choice of the postulates, that the original point, from where begin the chain of logic. Science is pragmatic. It can only take scientific postulate in any case. Not a scientific postulate, it is not a science. The first one, in every system of worldview, whether irritational or rational system of worldview. The first chapter is Cosmogony, that is the global cosmic processes which have led to the appearance of the human on the earth. For example, in the Christian religion, this in the beginning was the Word. The Word is God. God created the earth. So came from the general to the specific, the first chapter of Cosmogony. In a new scientific system of worldview, we put forward the following hypothesis. We based it on the three fundamental laws of science. The first law is the law of conservation of energy. There is no doubt that energy does not disappear. The energy converts from one form to another. The second one, the law of the qualitative and the quantitative transformation of matter. In our physical conditions, the matter cannot be infinitely, mainly of infinitely small of a certain quality that is determined by the amount of quality. For example, water can't be less than a water molecule. We can reduce the amount of water, but when we get the molecule of the water, we tore the molecule. All this is not the water, and this is qualitative transformation of matter. There was water, has become a gas. If we tore the gas molecules, the atoms are broken off, and if we tore atoms, then we have an electromagnetic field, the transformation of matter. The third postulate, we have taken the theory of Alexander Friedman, confirmed by Hubble, about an expanding and inflationary universe, that our universe expands. On the basis of the red shift, I will remind you a little bit. There is such a possibility in physics. If the object moves away from us, it will produce more red in the spectra analysis. If he approaches, then we will get more blue color. Wave frequency increases. Russian scientist Alexander Friedman put forward the following hypothesis. The universe is expanding on the basis of their mathematical calculations. The process of expansion of the universe goes on. Hubble, you know the Hubble's telescope, is an inventor. He learned all the surrounding stars and determined that they all fly away from us and to a certain pattern. For example, if we are here, one star here, the second star here. If it is twice far from us, twice it moves away from us soon. We came to the realization that the universe expands. Thus, knowing the acceleration using mathematical calculation of conversion. Back we calculated and we get that about 14 billion years ago. All the stars were here at one point, and from there we came to Bang theory. Remember that the universe emerged from the atom, a scientific theory, but on the other hand, it would be too brazen to say that we are the center of the universe. But how is it possible? If everything flies away from us, we felt that we are in the center of the universe. There we fell to the inflationary theory. Not expanding universe, that is, if we take a balloon and blow him to a certain size, put the points on it, and then we start to blow. And then we will see it's the same pattern. If there are bigger distance between the points, they will fly faster. We switch to the process of the inflationary universe. Then we introduce a logical chain. This is me telling you all one chapter of rational system of worldview. I repeat again, this is the universe expands. From this logic, what is it made of? Matter, fields, and radiation. Nothing more. Incidentally, again, divided into three stages. What is the matter, fields, and radiation? Radiation is a process. By the way, note that the two events are always in the center of the process, the rapidly changing events. What is the universe? Comets, planets, stars, all of this substance. Next one, gravitational, electromagnetic, and other little known to us of the field. And radiation, what happens? Yes, the sun. For example, billions of cubic meters of gas per second turns into electromagnetic radiation. That is, turns into an electromagnetic field. Thus, the universe expands. Then the law of conservation of energy. If something is added somewhere, then something somewhere is reduced. If the universe is expanding, due to what does it expand? By increasing the action of the force fields. Gravitational fields, because chaos doesn't occur. The stars fly away from each other. Why harmony is maintained? Thus, the range of the gravitational field increased significantly. At the household level, we can say the fields grow, increasing the volume field. If the field grows, then appears matter, because the radiation process is a process of transformation. Here, we've already begun to coordinate the location of the person in the solar system and galaxy. Who are we? What are we doing? We're members, part of this global process. We are the consequence of the certain stage of the participants of this development, the expansion of the universe. Indeed, we are being on the planet Earth, consume organic processed matter matter. In the human stomach, it's converted to the thermal and electromagnetic energy. Then through a series of transformations into the gravity, mental, intellectual, intuitive, perhaps a number of fields that right now we do not know. Or hypothesis, assumption. What if not only matter is converted into a field, but the field by crushing of the internal structure is converted into each other. Thus, we put forward a hypothesis that the matter is transformed into an electromagnetic field. Electromagnetic field becomes a gravitational field by crushing. The gravitational field is transformed after some stage into the physic field, a physic into the intellectual into the intuitive, and so on. How figuratively imagine this process? That is to say, crushing of the substances in the process of its expansion. And over again. Here I'll give you another one addition. The definition of the concept of field, because our education is quite weak, explains this. Someone has a weak field in the mind, someone electromagnetic, that there is a connection between them. No one can determine, as in general, and even does not occur such that there is a connection between them. So here's how the relationship works. I just tell crushing process. Immediately, I draw a picture. Let's imagine that here's a bunch of stones. About 100 stones are laid. We call it a field of stones. Now we create vibration. We begin to crush them. Field stones crumbled and turned into a field of sand. What's happened? There were 100 stones. They are returned to millions of grains of sand. Density increased by reducing the space between the elementary. The field scattered. Field expanded. The structure is thinned. That is, the amount of elements has become much more. Now create the conditions and the sand turned to dust. Further increased density, more expanded space, so it has further increased the number of elements. Now let's tear the dust at the molecular level. Where was the dust has become the gas. Now this is gas field. The number of elements increased. The structure is thin. The space has expanded. The number of movements increased. Has already begun the dynamic of movements. Now tear the gas atoms. It was a field of gas. We tore these atoms into electrons, protons, quarks, leptons, and so on. And what do we get? We've got an electromagnetic field. There was gas field. Now we have an electromagnetic field. Further increased, decreased, even more structure. Internal processes became more dynamic. This is still unknown for science. A further hypothesis, what if in the process of crushing of the electromagnetic field appears gravitational field, based on gravitons, more dense matter, even more dynamic, more order of magnitude in volume, the increase of expansion of the universe. Then a hypothesis we obtain, thus physic field base C shape. The space increases, the density increases, the dynamic increases, the number of elements increases. If we tear the Psi form, we will get the intellectual field. That is, thinner elements are already in the base, much more dynamic, a spatial field, and so on. If we tear intellectual field, we will get intuitive field. What if we tear intuitive field? In the end, the matter will be torn in the process of expansion of the universe, as long as there will be the most subtle internal field, zero field, the most dynamic field, with the huge number of elements, with infinite speed and infinite amount of internal structure. This is the zero field. Most likely this is the time. That is precisely zero in respect to which we measure all the things. But the energy of the internal field, which had been crushed up to the zero field, we call time. The form that it took, we call the universe. Hence we come to the conclusion that the universe will have expanded. All of this dark matter, which scientists are talking about today, this is the cape of this huge number of different kinds of fields, all combined together. The universe will expand as long as there is completely gone all substances, then disappear all electromagnetic fields, then all gravitational, physiological, intellectual, finally, would be a zero field. In other words, space and time. Here is our God. By the way, if we look at the irrational system of worldview, then the same pattern we see in Christianity. There, for example, it was said at the beginning was the Word, and the Word is God. God created the earth. They talk about the process of compression of the universe, the process of formation of matter in the process of compression of the universe. That is, in the center of the intellectual field, intuitive field, in the center of the field, or intuitive, the physiological in the physics center, gravity in the center of gravity, electromagnetic in the center of the electromagnetic matter. The universe will compress as long as it will shrink into the matter, the initial explosion, then again the process of expansion. Thus, what can we say if we consider our well-known laws of modern science? If from the point of view of science, we say that the universe is eternal, then eternity is just cyclical. Now, if we take a circle and begin to walk around the circle, we can walk around it forever. That is cyclical, repetitive processes, and therefore, if the universe is eternal, that means you and I, we exist forever, because it's not so. We would have ended our existence an infinite number of years ago. So, if all is eternal, hence, we are eternal. So everything is cyclical. We are a part of this process. We are the members of process. We occupy a certain stage of the overall process of the evolution. The hypothesis is often repeated at different stages of scientific development. I do not have the possibility for an hour to decompose and organize all for you. I'll tell you just some of the findings that prove the correctness of the existence of this theory. That is, from the viewpoint of science at the first place, is hypothesis. If this hypothesis is confirmed in practice, it becomes a scientific theory. Again, the hypothesis must be scientific. Theory is the same hypothesis, just checked in all areas of our lives, chemistry, physics, and physiology. If it's confirmed in practice, this is a scientific theory. Here today, this theory has become. It can be argued scientific. I want to present the work of the theory of the trinity of the structure of the world. In 2001, we published it. In that time, we were beginning to deal with this theory. Now we will create a new book. You see, the human brains, the human mind. This is the same reflector of the perception. Through it, we perceive the world around us. We have the strict limitations, for example, of vision. We can see from 5 to 20 microns. Hearing. We hear from 5 to 20 decibels. And here we have plenty of room, and there is plenty of room. This is a human physiological capabilities. Knowledge of the world. A very narrow range perceives the information through the reflector of the perception. Our mind is the same reflector of the perception. We do, and it's not just you. All people have their limits. Someone more, someone less. But it's the same reflector perception. Mind. This is the same reflector of perception. Just another term. This is an energy reflector of perception. We form the worldview. We are trying to make the interior exactly the same as the exterior. This will happen only when the internal and external match in size. That is, if only physically, therefore knowledge of the truth is eternal, we have given the concept of truth. Here in this book just gives the concept of truth. Today, the concept of truth in philosophy, the correspondence of the knowledge of reality. Knowledge is very limited and subjective. The reality is also very limited. Some people are colorblind, even cannot see the color. They have their own reality, but the truth does not match the knowledge of reality. It is a complete, undistorted information about the hidden. This will happen only when the universe and our minds become equal. This will happen when we won't be human beings. That is, when the universe will approach the completion of its expansion. Therefore, the process of knowing the earth. Therefore, the process of knowing the truth. For us, it's eternal. We can talk only about the relativity and the types of distortion, and the fact that we do not realize we have a border and do not really understand we do have limits. How we can't see ultraviolet rays, we cannot see the infrared rays in our range. So our mind has its range on the perception of the world. So everything is in order. We will gradually evolve. More and more, we will learn the world. Not only a human has a physic energy.
Цепочку. Ну, давайте, если здесь вот правда старый, уже все выключилось, да? Ну ладно, давайте я вам просто здесь нарисую.
If we are in a chain, well, let me hear you just draw by another color. But if there is a process of expansion of universe, come on, one can see all the red. Here's periodic table of the atom with 1 electron to an atom with 119. Next, Darwin's theory, from molecules to man, and then human takes some stage, from primitive to highly developed. Next, we go to the planetary system, the galactic system, and that somewhere in the universe there is. Then we don't know. So at this stage, even before the start, at the animal level, there is a physic energy. Here, there's somewhere intellectual energy. If we have here is a stage of development, human develops intellectual energy. It does not mean that it ends here. So here, it's wider and bulkier develops. Hence, the intellectual energy of our space by orders of magnitude bigger in size and significant manner than our intellect and our physic energy. So there is a physic energy of the earth and intellectual energy of the earth. There is a physic energy of the sun and intellectual energy of the sun. There are those energies that we don't even know yet, as cockroaches have no idea what intellectual is, and we don't represent those forms of energy which space objects have. They are significantly higher than our physic and our intellectual energy. When you consider that each subsequent field more and more weighty, the gravitational field is more than electromagnetic, mental larger than gravitational field, intellectual field more than mental. So, can you imagine what's the gigantic dimensions are those of energy, which we have touched? We have just the first stage of to develop what we are only in the early stages of this energy. From the point of view of science, I have to say yes, there is a cosmic mind, although hard to believe physiologically. Based on this scientific theory, both options are correct. The first is that man evolved from the monkey. If you take the elementary particles, each point of the body had taken nuclear fusion in the star formed, inside star formed every atom of our body. The process of evolution passed atoms, 119 items, then the molecule to the planet, then the planet to animals, then the animals to a human, then we'll have planetary systems. Stella. By the way, in the ancient religions of the sages said, stars are the people in the past, and people are the future stars. This way they link this process here. Therefore, in terms of both one and the other, this is a philosophical question. The existence of consequences, the answer is there both. This is a single energy process. Genesis affects consequences. Consequences forms being. The same thing here. The external energy developed and shaped the man. The process of human development was going on biological selection. Atheism, a denial of irrational system of worldview. It's still faith. That's faith on the belief in knowledge. Any atheist will tell you, I do not know how the world works, but I believe that science will find the answer to this question. In other words, he believes this is not a rational worldview. He believes in a rational world. And then there becomes a rational system of worldview. The demand to create that currently we are talking about. Because the lack of it is a product of the crisis of civilization. We shared the concept, we shared the faith and knowledge. And what is faith and knowledge? This is a single energetic process. What is our knowledge? Knowledge is the highest stage of our faith. So now I hold a pen, now let go of it. Do you believe that it will fall? So do you believe or no? And why do you believe? Because faith and knowledge are one and the same. Knowledge is the highest level of faith, or maybe occur and so that a large space object fit and there will be an electromagnetic field. I let it go and it will stick to the ceiling. This option is also possible. So when we share the ideas, the belief and knowledge, we have already put things in chaos in our thinking. Because knowledge is the highest level of faith. That is, we repeatedly tested it in practice and highly believe in it now. The knowledge is obtained. Today we have to meet the intellectual needs. That is, we should not believe. But no, only science can give at its base the knowledge in which we believe in the highest stage. Just a system of worldview that is based on science will give us the foundation against which we will orient our thinking. orienting our thinking, will begin to shape our behavior. Therefore, the fundamental base of the crisis of civilization is the lack of unified system of worldview. This by analogy as the absence of the basic program in a computer, Linux, Windows, and so on. That does not give us a system of communication, does not give us a system of values. So each of you has closed on your applications. Someone engaged in the production, someone involved in business. Each of its application, we don't have communications between us. We do not have common goals, because the system of worldview is a religion. This is a map of the area. Further, all the politicians says, we do not have an ideology. We need to establish an ideology urgently. They do not even have a presentation that ideology. It's just a route on this map. There can be ideology if there is not system of philosophy, because on the system of worldview are determined the highest points of world aspirations and goals, and the theoretical way to achieve them. It is an ideology. Politics is the practice of ideology. Again, triune interconnected system. Politics without ideology is wandering without purpose and direction, and the ideology without religion, without a system of worldview, is a route without the map of the area. This is the triune interconnected system. Separate existence necessarily lead us to a crisis issue, not to anything else. By the way, Russia has twice climbed to the top of world domination. When strictly observe the laws of nature, when the three components are combined, then the serious social and political movements start. The first time, we were found upon the orthodoxy as a system of worldview. Its ideology and politics have created the Russian Empire. The second time, we took atheism as a system of worldview. Its ideology and politics have created Soviet Union. By the way, Russia, the single country to date that can bring civilization out of the crisis. And thanks again to the historical processes that have taken place in our country. Again, by the similar laws, we can say how it happened. Here we take for an analogy to draw a picture. The process of the existence of electromagnetic energy. Here to there for the current in the conductor. We need to create a potential difference. The higher the potential difference, the greater the voltage. The higher the voltage, the more current. By analogy, we take no longer an electromagnetic field and a psycho-intellectual field. It is developed by the same laws. The higher the potential difference, the greater the voltage. The higher the voltage, the faster development. Once the voltage in the electromagnetic field, a plus and a minus, a psycho-intellectual field, it's good and evil. The higher the voltage, the faster the process of evolution. The same law, note that it's in times of war, had long ago pointed out, suddenly begins to ride sharply scientific and technical progress. It would seem that the material base collapsed, not work on anything, but here we start right away and invent bombs and missiles and new aircraft and so on. And what expense? The same as in the electromagnetic field increase the electrical potential, we have a growing magnetic potential. By increasing the magnetic potential, we have a growing electric. Same thing here. Increase psychological stress. We dramatically increase the intellectual component of society. As you can see, the same laws we found 100% analogy. They are also related, as the electric field cannot exist without the magnetic and mental cannot exist without intellectual. The same thing. They are interrelated, hence, they have the same perpendicular interaction system. If you take by analogy, and then in developing this system, we found a very large number of matches. And today, we are one of the first to come to the new rational system of philosophy. Its ideology and politics will enable us to save all of civilization. Today, we still have chaos. We live without schema, without worldview. In other words, ordinary example, along the lines of, that's subway. If you go down into the subway, and I'll take all the circuits, stampede begins today. No one will know where to go. Came up, do not go there again. Down and then climb up the other. Let's push, because all the people added. Chaos begins. No one knows where to go. And until then, until the scam, we will not bring harmony to civilization until there is a new system of worldview. And this is the fundamental basis of any society is education. That is why the struggle with behavior, with the crisis behavior, where the corrupt corruption, B. It's psychological problems. By the way, the same depression, alcoholism, drug addiction, it's all viruses. It's useless. Basic program there. By analogy, if you put antivirus programs, that is what antivirus software. What are you going to put? Basic program there? Maybe in his mind at all only one virus. If you uncheck it, just hung up. He is more to life that's not present. A virus in the head. He is a drug addict or an alcoholic. Why? Because he was lost and has no idea who he is. Why he's here. That is his role in life, according to global processes. We must bring people from the global to the particular. She, by the way, is confirmed. One of the first black holes were found in Crayfish Nebula. It was a huge cosmic black hole. By the mathematical calculations, that hole had the following conclusion. According to Einstein's theory, it was concluded that the existence of black holes. Also, the German mathematician Karl Schwarzschild made mathematical calculations and revealed the following pattern. What is a black hole? This is a very densely substance which has the effect of gravitational attraction. Even the light beam cannot escape. Here's coverage of this force which has a ray of light cannot escape. It's called the event horizon. That is the space where the ray of light cannot escape is called the event horizon. Mathematical calculations have shown that the transition of the event horizon will reserve the space and time.
Пространство, время меняется местами. Это математические расчеты. А внутри черной дыры энергия является
Inside of a black hole, the energy, which is a mirror image of the external energy. To imagine from a physical point of view, it was very difficult. Now I'll give you the picture which has come to us already from psychology.
Пространство и время, как они меняются местами.
I'm going to show you how space and time are reversed. So let's imagine our eye. As a black hole in space, here is the area where space and time are reserved around yourself, that you call memory. Being here, I can move everything in the space, but none of a second in time cannot go back. But in my mind, it's exactly the opposite. I'm walking on time, but I cannot change anything in the space. That's how space and time are reserved. Inside of my black hole, the energy that's a mirror image of the external energy. This energy is our consequences. What is consequences? It is more or less distorted view of the objective reality. If the mind is smaller, the distortion is greater. If the consciousness is bigger, the distortion is less. More satisfaction. Once again, what is a black hole? What is it based on? This is a vortex in the center of all energy fields. At the center part of it, the vacuum energy is a zero field. Do you imagine a tornado in the atmosphere at a physical level, rapidly, rotating mass of matter and inside, dull up space. That's the same thing as our eye. Around you, created a body of energy rotate and inside, vacuum energy, your eye. This time, the zero field, dull up and space. That is your eye, where it was. The energy revolves around it. This vortex grows in the process. As I have shown the scheme, the expansion of the universe. Now we look at society. People are split into 3 stages of development. Material people. The goal to live from birth to death with maximum satisfaction of their needs. All the rest do not care. The whole world created for them. Is it the type of worldview? That kind of people are billions. Then there are intelligent people. It's knowledge of unknown, curiosity, the main types of energy that they are forced to live and drive them to develop. It can even don't care on the value world. Do you know many scientists who have gone with a whole head to science? They can be sloppy. They do not interested in money, just only to satisfy their intellectual needs. Then comes the stage of spiritual development. It's as if the internal development of human ends at a certain stage and begins the external development, that is, harmonizes. The environment, please note, they are divided into three levels of development: spiritual, intellectual, and material. For spiritual people, we may include the same businessmen and again, the numerical difference. The lowest, millions of them. The higher, developed, so there are less. That is the spiritual material people who harmonize their surroundings for their material satisfaction. You've probably come across with them every day. They're bulk. They build the structure of society, but only for themselves. The second, for the sake of curiosity. One example, the Mahabodhi, which looks like he is not interested in material values. He is interested on his potential. If he can destroy the system, that is, he satisfies his intellectual needs. He comes onto the euphoria. He does not need the money. He needs to destroy them, to show how powerful he is. Then come highly spiritual people, the people who harmonize the space in order to establish harmony between people. They are very sensitive because they are at the high level of intellectual and sensual energy. It is in the process of growth, constantly evolves, and the person appears more new requirements. To make it clear, for example, 2,000 years ago, the most fun for a person was, as we do today, football, but they had gladiator fights, or how lions tearing people. They did not associate themselves with that person. They received just visual stimulation. That's all. Today, try to show such a spectacle. Half the stadium will fall into a swoon. Why? Because you are energetically more developed and your energy is associated with that person. If a lion attacked a man, you will feel as he attacked you. Do you understand? The same further. The further develops the person, the more he feels. Today, our society is at this point, that the majority of our politicians can easily push a button and somewhere a few million people will die. For these politicians will not be any sensations. Even they would be fun. Are all dead there? Or whether all were burned or not all. So that the same comparison, but at a higher level. Because the highly spiritual people, they're very few. Unfortunately, they will feel the pain of all those people, because it's their body. As you now prick your finger, you will also be hurt. The same thing, only this his power extends on very large spaces. And then, when we were talking about black holes of people also grow in the process of evolution. We just roughly divided them into three parts, but they are divided as atoms too. How the atoms are different from each other. By the dimensions of energy, as a consequence of their energy age, evolutionary age. There is one electronic atom, 2, 3, and so up to 119 electrons. That is the 119 steps of evolution. The probability of a person is not less and perhaps even more. So there is primitive people with such energy forms. There are people with such energy forms, and there is a large. By the way, by analogy to the irrational religions, we found some confirmations. You know the sophists? Lovers of wisdom, here they are back in the days taught. If that's all, a field that the people has to know in the course of its evolution, the process of reincarnation, they are also implied. So the intelligent knows this much, but the fools know this much. Note the line of contact between the known and the unknown in the shortest fool. So the stupid people always say, do not teach me. Better if you give me the money than you're teaching me. I know all of this. The more intelligent person becomes, the more contact with the unknown. The more he starts to get lost. That's why the most of the great scientists, usually towards the end of their life, comes to the same conclusion. I finally realized that I know nothing about this world. Therefore, the process of knowing the truth is eternal in the evolution of the universe. We are a part of this process. We are the stage of this development. The process of human development goes to his reincarnation. That is, the process of reshaping the material on this basis of his energy development. Although on the emotional and sensual level, I still do not believe it, but the math and physics, all science now says that what I cannot accept psychologically, yet now looks like education still does not allow to agree with these conclusions. But these conclusions are mathematical, purely academic. That is, the universe expands. We are the part of this process. We go through a series of stages of its development. If we take an analogy with the atoms, are not less than 119 steps. There's is a man with a single atom in the head. There is a two, or as we say, with a bullet in his head. There are people highly developed that have not less than 100 electrons in their head. What should we conclude? We need to define the people, not only the physical, but also on energy. The evolutionary age, by this, we are very great difference from each other. Notify that the underdeveloped billions people, moderately, hundreds of millions, and highly spiritual people in general unit. The most highly spiritual, one comes every few thousand years. This is Krishna, Buddha, all the prophets. Philosophy is a constant process of converting into the another. Studying the rational system of philosophy, she is looking for those holes, those atoms, which we don't know. As in the periodic table, to do this, it creates a scientific direction to find this atom. Philosophy studies the whole system of worldview, creates research directions, which should give information in order to fill this gap. Then there is a gap in the whole system of worldview. If we would have a single system of worldview, then we will have a system of understanding the world, each person. The system of values. And then we will stand on the foundation on which we will not be knocked down, and then we will have the ideology and worldview, and the harmonization of this relationships between humans and joint actions. Because we will understand not only the physical, but also the evolutionary age. It's different. We did not born equal. There are people who are born with a single atom in the head, as they say, with the bullet in his head, and there are those with 119 levels. So we should approach differently to the process of education and training. For younger, a tough upbringing, less education. For more advanced, more education, less upbringing. Because harsh parenting is only hurting those people. Those who are with a weak development, the education from them in general is not necessary. It only hurts. They're needed to bring up. Politics and ideology are interrelated. Today, we don't have politicians in the world, because instead of politicians, we have economic groups pursuing their goals. They do not have the goals of worldview. They have just economic goals. There are groups pursuing these economic goals. They're fighting for us, just like for electorates, as to promote their economic interests. That's all have. Philosophical goals we do not have today. Why not? Because philosophy does not develop. It stopped its development. It stopped the conversion of synthesis of the analysis. It should form from scientific analysis of the worldview. We know that philosophy is the mother of science, that she was before. It created all research directions. Why did it create? In order to obtain information and to synthesize its integral worldview. That's what it should do. It ceased to exist in fact. Here we have a violation of the laws of nature. Violation of the laws of nature is a crisis. The crisis of world understanding gave birth to a moral crisis. Moral crisis gave birth to crisis of behavior. Crisis of behavior began social crisis. The social crisis, ecological, political, and other. That is, the beginning of a chain crisis, mutual development. So, here's the system of worldview is not spiritual foundation of our civilization. The spiritual development on the individual is formed on its base. On the spiritual development of the individual forms the thinking. On the basis of the thinking forms the behavior. But the fact that you are struggling with a crisis, corruption, is also a crisis of behavior. To deal with it is quixotic. The fighting with the result is useless. We must restore the entire system of social development. Guilty is a society. The more we will be doing stupid moves without learning the laws, the more we'll get confused. It's like a fish in the network. The more banging, the more confused, the more quickly dies. Society, politics, we are all guilty. Everything is interconnected. It's like at Raikin's who sued Jacket. I buttons. Claims for the buttons. No? No. It's the same here. We need to do today. We need to seek and disseminate this knowledge. This will form the line of thinking of society. Mindset of society from the institutions of society. Institutions will form the behavior of society. From here, it's necessary to begin. Hence, one should begin with the distribution of this information and to work on its development. Further study and systematization of knowledge. So we have to restore philosophy. Philosophy seems to grow all around the world. You know, I still have an economic block. We talk about the economic situation in Russia. It, by the way, is also peaceful. Economic condition of Russia, because we have the most enormous resources in the world, but we do not have generals of business. That is business in the quantities that we need, not people who can work well, such as the Chinese, selflessly. We, therefore, the point of view of the laws of nature, found in this direction. You know, that spitting into the wine meaningless. The laws of nature works against us now. So to save Russia, although I think to save Russia is not even necessary, dying civilization, one of the most ancient laws says so. The laws of nature do not oppose anything, only the law of nature. Judging from this, we can, in the words of the wars, if you cannot defeat enemy, then you can only lead it. Here today at the physical economic level, Russia has already lost the war. We have no generals by analogy, I mean organizers of business. There is no army, that is those people who can work selflessly as the Chinese. Here today, they have, by the way, a powerful advantage. They team up with Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong were prepared super generals of business, and in mainland China, the stupefaction of large numbers of people. From here, there was an economic explosion. So it's like Genghis Khan in the economy. He gave his generals and headed by the most powerful military movement, and the Chinese have organized the most powerful economic movement. We sit in their way as a source of the world's most formidable resources. And the laws of nature say that the further development of civilization, the harder the war for resources. Therefore, based on the laws of nature, laws of economic development are directed against us. We have neither the generals, no armies, and the most enormous resources in the world for them, and they will kill us. With the development of our civilization, on the other hand, to save Russia is meaningless, because civilization is dying, and we have the only way out is to head it. Due to the stress that was created in the Soviet Union, over the 70 years of Soviet power, we have created a huge number of most intellectually trained people in the world. All intellectually trained army, our army. And today here, but this is a whole lecture, it was as if the egg insemination. The brain flowed westward and technology flowed to the east. That is when we are united. We seeded civilization. Practically, there is intellect. Intellect has also 3 stages of development. That is the bottom. It is a physical, practical intelligence, medium, a quantity intelligence, and the top is a spiritual intelligence. Here, the Soviet Union became the father of quantitative intelligence of our civilization, and Western society has given birth to practical intelligence of our civilization. Now their insemination, now qualitative and quantitative transformation of society can only happen at the present time, in our generation. Either we translate all civilization to the spiritual stage of development and thereby direct the harmony of the civilization. Either we lose the number of the transition to a new quality impossible, the remnants of an intellect-torn civilization on economic interests. This will be the reason for World War III on a physical level, the redistribution of property. The reason of this will be found. Somebody to come up to someone and spit in the wrong direction. The occasion is not a problem. So we have a very serious situation. Nature does not know peaceful. As they say, it is in the process. It's all in the dynamics. The universe evolves. We have 2 choices. Either we head civilization and translate it to the stage of spiritual development, or we leave it at that. We lose a quantitative intelligence, and intelligence remains of our civilization torn by economic interest. And that is the reason for World War III, for the redistribution of property. The entire civilization becomes harmonious, highly developed spiritually. The more your energy forms, the more spiritual you are in relation to others.